Good morning, great morning, wonderful morning, spectacular morning, outstanding morning, magnificent morning, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious morning. Again, the beautiful reminder of choice that you have, I have, that we all have. And what is that choice about? It's all about thought. And that's the only thing that it's about. Remember, it's your thoughts that you have ultimate control over that lead to the results in your life. As within, so without. See, that's where it's at. When you control the narrative that's happening inside, you literally lead yourself to whatever's in harmony with that. And that's a really important thing to get. That's what Dolly and I have worked so diligently with to help people to understand so that they can live their lives the way that they would love to live their lives. That's what we did when we decided to be coached and mentored by Bob Proctor, of which we learned from him beautifully. And look what's evolved. Elevitality, of which came from that a lot of other things. This study group, for instance, expanded to be the way that it is. And it also led to Emergence, which is the implementation tool that we've developed to help people to use what it is that we're talking about. And that word use is something that needs to be seriously connected with. Use meaning implementation, meaning practice. Remember, knowledge in and of itself has no power at all. What has power is the use of that knowledge. So, for instance, if I say, imagine great things for yourself, we literally mean to do that. And when you are doing that, what are you doing? You're practicing that way of thinking, which then leads to something much different in your life, provided that what you're thinking, or I should say, how you're thinking, is different than how you've been thinking before. That's what we've been studying in this beautiful gem here in As a Man Thinketh and Out from the Heart by James Allen. And if you don't have a copy of that, make sure that you do get a copy of it. And most importantly, yes, read it, study it, memorize it, but most importantly, apply it in your life, because that's what's going to make the difference for you in your life. All right, so make sure that you have your goal card with you. And if you could type in the comments, I'm ready if you're ready. And let's dive into this from where we left off in our last session. Are you ready? Let's see those comments. Say, I'm ready if you're ready. Yes, you're ready. Of course you are. That's why you're here. All right. So let's go into this right now, shall we? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, boom. All right. Now, the page that we're on is page 22 in this book, As a Man Thinketh, in the edition that we published. And what does he say here? He says, as the physically weak man can make himself strong by careful and patient training, so the man of weak thoughts can make them strong by exercising himself in right thinking. Now, think about that. Now, here he's referencing a beautiful gem within the Bible that says, let the weak man say, I am strong. And here he's pointing out that you could do the same thing when it comes to your physicalness, or should I say, how you're feeling physically, as you can when it comes to how you're thinking. Now, think about the implications of that, because remember, as within, so without. Your outer world is a reflection of what's happening in your inner world. Your thought externalizes and forms habits and beliefs, which then determines your results. If your results are what they are and are continually being what they are being because of how you're thinking, if you shift how you're thinking, it will change the results. Now, think about that, because you can shift that. Here he talks about that in terms of weak thoughts and making them strong thoughts. Well, how do you gain strength? Through practice. See, this is why these calls are so important. This is why what we share with you is repeated so many times, because we want you to embed this within you subconsciously. This is why we put into play Emergence to help you create the right thought patterns to help you deliver the results that you would love to have in your life. So let's go over this again. As the physically weak man can make himself strong by careful and patient training, so the man of weak thoughts can make them strong by exercising himself in right thinking. Now, let's sit in that for just a moment. That's something that you have control over. Control over meaning the thoughts that are within your kingdom of heaven, because that's what the kingdom of heaven is, kingdom of thought. Now, to put away aimlessness and weakness and to begin to think with purpose is to enter the ranks of those strong ones who only recognize failures as one of the pathways to attainment, who make all conditions serve them, and who think strongly, attempt fearlessly, and accomplish masterfully. Now, when you look at this paragraph, he's talking about a way of thinking, a perception. My question for you is, when you look at life, are you looking at life like it's happening to you, or are you seeing it based from the truth that it's happening for you? That perspective changes everything. I want you to think of thinking from life is happening to you, how the weight is heavy, how there's a lot of victimhood that's in that way of thinking, versus life is happening for me. In other words, it's helping me to grow, to maneuver through experiences in life, of which, by the way, is how you got to where you are right now. And think about it. You can look at everything from that perspective. Life is happening for me. That your failures were there to help you to get to the success. But see, most people don't look at it that way. We've been conditioned to think that if I fail, I'm a failure, when that's really not true. But if you believe that that's true, guess what? That's how you're going to feel, which is going to lead to you a lot of failure with no end in success. Now let's read this again. To put away aimlessness and weakness and to begin to think with purpose is to enter the ranks of those strong ones who recognize failure as one of the pathways to attainment. Write that in your notes or underline it. Failure is one of the pathways to attainment, who make all conditions serve them. You know what? I'm going to learn something from this. Who think strongly, attempt fearlessly, and accomplish masterfully. See, that's a way of thinking. That's not what you're thinking, that's how you're thinking. Having conceived of his purpose, a man should mentally mark out a straight pathway to his achievement, looking neither to the right nor the left. Doubts and fears, I'm going to add in worry, doubts, and fear, should be rigorously excluded. They are disintegrating elements which break up the straight line of effort, rendering it crooked, ineffectual, useless. See, that's a life of ignorance. And remember, the only problem you have is ignorance. With that being said, a life of ignorance is filled with constant worry and doubt, which leads to fear. You want to get rid of the fear? Eliminate the worry and the doubt. How do you eliminate the worry and the doubt? By going through it. By understanding that whatever you're going through, it's going to lead you to an understanding of something. Now here, I want to talk about this first part, having conceived of his purpose. Now, how do you discover your purpose? Remember, we talked about this before. It's very simple. Ask a really great question. If anything is possible, what would I love as an outcome for my life, both personally and professionally, that would give me tremendous joy? Be honest with that answer. If you're afraid to write it down, it's really close to what it is that's calling out to you. With that being said, when you lock into it, when you decide that that's the way it's going to be, you now have your purpose. Your purpose in life is to fulfill that. So lock into it. Now here he says, a man should mentally mark out a straight pathway to his achievement. The quickest way for you to get there is to go straight there in imagination. That's the straight pathway. And then what does he say here? Looking neither right nor left. In other words, focus on it till you're focusing from it. Be loyal to that unseen reality, is what Neville Goddard says. Crowd out any thought that's not in harmony with that good that you desire. And then don't worry, don't doubt, believe. Ask believing, you shall receive. And then from there, those disintegrating elements will dissipate. They will disintegrate themselves, but only if you are loyal to that purpose. Now, before we proceed, for those of you who are watching this live stream and are connecting with this and would love to tap into the remainder of this call with the recordings as well, then do yourself a favor and go to elevitality.com and register for Master Your Mind. You will thank yourself later. Now let's proceed. Let's go even